How many MP elections have been cancelled? How many MCAs over here in Embakasi where people did not vote for MCA? Come on, we cannot sit here and give IEBC a glowing review when you test it against itself.
Why? What is B? What is Form 34B going to do for you?
No, but you see, Gabe,
as far as the presidential, Nick,
what is it? Is the final, yeah?
Exactly. The polling, the final tally is at the polling station.
You are avoiding to answer my question.
Are you using your inner voice like a Atwoli? What's happening? Speak with confidence.
No.
Did you listen to the Hot Breakfast this morning? Here's what you missed.
Mark, you were very confident. You're extremely confident.
What happened? Extreme disappointment. That's what happened. No, listen. The thing is, and you've got to give credit to William Ruto. William Ruto knows how to run a tight ship, right? And I think he put his troops in line and they executed what they needed to execute. I will not go into the matters of court because I do not know. But if you looked at how Cholet and team were performing at Bomas, you realize there were people on a mission. I do not think they even went home in those 4 or 5 days. This was an interesting election. Number one, the voter turnout from Central was the least it has ever been. The voters turnout for the whole country, the least it has ever been. Never mind that now that is also in dispute as to what the voter turnout was. But the fact is that this was a match that at the end of the day, anyone who was watching it saw Cholet executing what Azimio will soon claim to be illegalities with precision, and then one asks themselves, what happened with Azimio? And I think there was an overconfidence on the side of Azimio that then brought this on them. Now, whether they can prove what they are alleging in a court of law will be known in exactly 14 days from now.
Yeah.
Hold your breath and heart and everything, because half of this country is in jubilation, the other one is in tears, and funnily enough, it is Jubilee that is not jubilating, isn't it?
Yes. I've always told people elections are not won on the election day. Mark is saying there was an overconfidence that you don't know where it came from, and sometimes that overconfidence in Intani, what we used to call them, you have and we used to call it falamanga. You're so confident, ignorant. You're so confident that you can't be told. Jeff cannot come to me and tell me, "Hey, Gabe, hapo unaenda vibaya." So I've kept telling people, I do not think there's so much that went on at Bomas. Sorry to say this. The election was won at the polling station. And if we go by the adage that the tallying at the polling station was final, then Bomas, there was just verification. And there's nothing you're going to change anyway, Nick, because everything was up in the system. So now, if you're going to pray that the system was hacked, then we have to wait. By the way, I am just saying, because people that's what has been going on social media. The system was hacked. But when push comes to shove, you have to prove how that happened. But what I want to execute, Mark, is that I don't think there was much happening in Bomas. It's just the razzmatazz. We thought there was this big, people are fighting. But I think at that particular point, Jeff, the election had already been won. And we must actually start putting things into perspective. If we are going by the narrative that the polling station is where things are final, then at Bomas, really, the only thing that was happening is the verification and just waiting for the returning officers to bring the Form 34Bs. That was what
But was there absolutely no person from Azimio to do the confirmations? Because you mentioned Gladys, and it's hit me that those are the people who are so visible during that whole process. Where was Azimio?
You see, Azimio chose the chief agent. Do you know his name? That's my point. Gladys Boss Cholet. Gladys Boss Cholet is a known figure, right? She was the former first CEO of the Interim Electoral Commission. Right. So she knows the IEBC very well. She was involved in its making. She knows the staff. Some of the staff she hired are still there. Same to Davis Churchill. He's a former IEBC commissioner. So on the side of UDA, they had people with the know-how, and therefore they looked more efficient. Because let me tell you guys something. This election had 46,000 polling stations. If you can argue and show that there is 10 votes extra in each polling station. I'm just giving an example. You would have an average of 460,000 votes, right? So when you come to Bomas, it's not just a matter of 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. The issue is there's concession, there's discussion. The reason why the agents have to agree on the Form 34B is because if you looked at the 34As, for example, you'll find a number that has been cancelled and it's been written on the side 220, it was 180. You will find those issues all over the thing. So the agents have to sit there and agree. It's the same way in the creation of Form 34A. In the creation of Form 34A, there are always arguments. No, that's not a spoilt vote. No, that's a proper vote. So at the end of the day, the tallying process is an important part of elections. And if we're to go by the precedent set in 2017, the beauty about going to court is not just that it is cathartic to the country. It is also because it allows us to look into our electoral systems and create bases for having a better election in 2027.
I was with Mark in 2017. The major difference that came out of it was we did not know what was happening in the back end. And the Supreme Court pronounced herself that moving forward, the minor KI declaration was coming to play. That me and you must know. Me and Nick must be able to see what is happening right from the grassroots. And that's a major difference between now and 2017. 2017, we were all over across the street, fungua sava. Those servers were opened for everybody to see. Now, that is the major difference. Now, I am not saying there may not have been problems. But when we started voting, you remember, about 200 Kimskits, we were told had problems. But when you look at 200 versus 46,000 plus, the margin of error is so little, you know. It's so little. I mean, you're looking at 0.04 something. So even in the court, you would expect that even if there were problems, you look at the margin of error, because we cannot have, whether in this republic or otherwise, you cannot run an error-free. And I had somebody mentioning the other day, you can have an error-free election. You cannot. Even the great US of A cannot. There is something that will fail. So what the court may be looking is, and probably they'll be guided through that, is the margin of error correct? Are we past a threshold where this thing cannot be called, and then it can be annulled? So we have to wait and see the press. But it is very good. And that's why I'm telling Mark, we must put things into perspective. 2017 and now were two different animals. Here from day one, I was able to start tabulating, and I was shocked at one point when numbers are starting to fly. And I'm like, you guys, do you know what is happening? Everything is in the portal. You can be able to add. It's simple mathematics. And that's what I was telling you, Jeff. If at some point, if we are to get class 6 and class 5 people to do the tallying, they'll do a better job. Because then they're having fun. 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2, and they will enjoy it. Remember, the supreme form here is 34A, and Mark knows it very well. And it has been regurgitated over and over again. That cannot be changed. So we must find ways to ask, what are we really asking for? Because if we are going by the veracity of what was on the Form 34A, whether it had mistakes or not, they could not be changed. You can verify the process using 34Bs, but that's the farthest you can go.
The commissioners are stakeholders. That's why they're executive. They're not passive directors as are in parastatals. They're active. They take responsibility for the actions of that particular institution. So you cannot say that a chair and a minority of commissioners overrule the other four, because, and this is where I have concern, there was a whole 24 hours before there was a deadline for the declaration of the president. What was so hard, and to save this country the trouble and the heartache, what was so hard for Chebukati to sit down with his 4 commissioners and say, okay, let me take you, this is 1 + 1 + 2 = 7.1 million. This is 1 + 1 + 2 = 6.9 million. It would have been an easier position. The fact that they are saying that there was opaqueness in the process, the fact that we are claiming there were 28 odd constituency tallies that were not verified, the fact that the process changed midway, so there was a process of verification until Friday, then Saturday, Sunday, the process of verification changed. all of those issues raise questions. And do we want another election where other commissioners will say, by the way, the results were announced and I don't know? And these are serious issues.
I did not see anywhere, Nick, where it says the chair of IEBC must seek concurrence with the rest of the commissioners. I did not see it. And this is, you see, as a commission, you're working towards a certain goal. And people have been asking, and it's just not Gabriel asking. Even you, Jeff, you'd want to know. Nick, you'd want to know. What are they having a problem with? Is it with Chebukati himself for the pronouncements he is making? Because even they were also making pronouncements from the floor at Bomas. Or is it the Form 34As? Because that's the true arbiter of this election. Is that where they're having a problem? If that is where they're having a problem with, then it will be presented at the Supreme Court. All of us now, we will know, wow, like Mark is saying, there were issues with Form 34A. But then, when did those issues arise? Because as they were being uploaded, me and you and everybody else, and even the international observers that were tallying, the media houses that were tallying, they did not see a problem with that. So, Mark, I would ask, when did that problem occur?
Number one, did we finish the constituency 34B tally, Gabe?
By we, you mean who?
The country. IEBC was doing it on behalf of the country. Did we finish it?
Why would they finish?
No, did we finish? By the time the election results were being announced, were the 28 constituency already tallied and publicized?
But you see,
it's a yes or no answer.
That is, in fact, that is where you swim with the current. Why? What is B? What is Form 34B going to do for you?
No, but you see, Gabe,
as far as the presidential, Nick,
what is it? Is the final, yeah?
Exactly. The polling, the final tally is at the polling station.
You are avoiding to answer my question. The president-elect was given a certificate based on 34C.
Yes.
True or false?
Yes.
So 34C matters.
Right.
Okay, it does. 34C is a compilation of 34Bs.
Correct.
So 34B matters.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's not the final arbiter.
Guys, listen.
If there's a mistake,
listen.
In fact, do you know who brings the 34B?
You allow other people to talk.
I'm just telling you, the 34Bs were brought by the arrows who are getting lost.
Gabe, listen.
Somebody went and gave their own craziness.
Gabe, listen. And this is the thing, right? 34As are the final. But to get a 34C, you go through 34B. The Form 34Bs, there were 28 which were not completed to be verified. Okay, which is something you don't want to talk about. And for me, that and by the way, this has gone beyond winning and losing. It has gone to the point of what is the process of actually declaring someone president. If you've not tallied all the constituencies and there is a process by which that was being done, and you got to 200 and something, and you got to 260 something, and there was 290 to be done, and there's 28 odd whatever to be done. There is a question to be asked to you about what happened to this 28, and there's nothing wrong with being asked, and it does not in any way change the value of 34As. And if you go back to 34A, you will find what these other 28 constituencies were talking about. So the issue is that the questions that are being raised are not about people not accepting results. It's people desiring that there is transparency and justice in how those results are done. And if you want,
Mark is really banging the table today.
And I agree with Mark. And that's why I told Mark, we cannot say there were no issues. There could have been issues. And I kept insisting that I do not know any country that can say they are immune from the tribulations that comes with elections. Did you have agents? Nick, you've had people talk about, did you have agents? Yeah? Because if you do not have agents in specific places, it cannot be your business to be running to court to have an election overturned because you did not put your house in order. It cannot be that way. You did not have an agent. They were not there to confirm whether that form was filled correctly. They did not even sign. Yet at the same time, you're expecting them, to be at Bomas to raise a point or to raise chaos based on the very premise you could not handle at the polling station.
UDA did not have agents everywhere also. this agents game has been overplayed. Let's be clear. The IEBC should do its job, whether there is 10 agents or 1 agent. Let's set that as a basic foundation, right? Not having an agent is not, if you're running for MCA and you're that 22-year-old or 24-year-old who doesn't have the resources to have agents everywhere, do you expect there to be a free and fair election? Yes, you do. Right? Does the Democratic Party have agents across the US? No. Number one, definitely an issue to be raised that you need as many agents on the ground as possible given the nature of our elections. But just that statement in and of itself then points out to the issues I'm talking about possible illegalities and irregularities. So let me give you another example. When you go to a polling station, you are given all 6 ballots, correct? So how come there are places where the gubernatorial election has 400,000 votes, and then the presidential has 300,000? Where did the 100,000 go? If you don't vote for all 6, you either leave your ballot unmarked or spoil your thing. You are not allowed. No one carried a ballot paper out of you still had to put it in the box. You still had to put it in the box, right? So where did this disparity come from? Which means the book itself, the book from which the ballots came, counts how many ballots have been given. So you cannot say that the ballots magically disappeared.
The same process that we are questioning about the presidential vote today is the same process that elected an MCA. Same process that has elected MPs. Governors have conceded using the same process. Senators have already conceded using the same process. So where does it go wrong? It only goes wrong at the presidential tally. Do you see? It satisfies every other arrangement, but only dissatisfies people when it comes to the presidential elections. I think we need to go past that. And this is what I'm saying. By the way, Mark, I do not mean for 1 minute that an agent at your polling station, your agent, should always be there. The reason why I think it is important, Jeff, is what you see in the United States. That your people are on the ground and they are giving you fact. They're giving you factual information. That at the end of the process, you can actually call out a winner and a loser. That is why you need people on the ground that are not only going to play a card to make you feel better, but they will tell you, here, my friend, you have to vote. And you have your own tallying. You are allowed. This time, everybody was. You had media houses that started the tallying immediately. You had individual private citizens who started doing the same. And we have seen what they've come up with. All right? So that's why I'm saying we need to be very mindful of the process, as Mark is saying. Yeah, and as it brings out the outcome, we must be mindful enough to know that this process has also produced other electoral offices, not only that of the president.
Let me give you an example of Wainaina Wajango, right? Who is complaining and has given evidence publicly to how the gubernatorial race in his mind was full of malpractice, and is given form. For example, he shows in one polling station how his votes were exchanged with someone else, and you can see it directly cancelled. So the things we're talking about here on a presidential scale, it is not that they did not happen at another scale. And Gabe, let's also remember in 2017 and 2013, how many MP positions were overturned by the High Court because of malpractice.
We have come from 2007 when we were told by Johansen Kriegler that all systems must be ready 2 years before an election. Were we ready 2 years before an election? No, we were not. Have we even implemented, forget what we used to call about minimum reforms, have we implemented maximum reforms? Because let's face it, we've had over, Jeff, if you're looking from 2007, we've had 10 years plus of instituting, radical reforms into our electoral processes. We had an election overturned, a presidential election overturned in 2017. We do not have the fortitude of injecting money, knowing where this country is currently. The cost of living. Jeff, our kids have missed an entire month almost going to school. And you're saying still with what may happen at the Supreme Court, they're going to miss longer hours. COVID notwithstanding, We are now hurting people so that others can lead. We are hurting the future of our children who are not in school. We are wasting amazing and important man hours so that boys with toys can have positions.
Can we afford a rerun? Can we afford it?
Whichever way you cut it, 50% thereabout voted UDA. 50% thereabout voted Azimio. All of these people have kids. All of these people have bills. Half of them feel that there was something that went wrong with this election. It is also their right, constitutionally, mentally, health-wise, to receive affirmation from the Supreme Court to say, yes, you are right, something went wrong, or no, you are wrong, nothing went wrong. I do not understand why anyone would be against the court case, because if UDA won fair and square, then guess what? Azimio will have to accept what the Supreme Court says. But if they didn't, then they will also have to deal. So for me, it's a win-win, because if UDA won fair and square, the Supreme Court will affirm that for them, and it's then a double win, and it gives them even more credibility. So I think it's a good thing.
What I am actually putting an affirmation on is, it is not only IEBC that had a stake in the game. You had international observers here. What did they say? The Jakaya-led team, what did they say? That this election had done what? Had passed according to their standards. You had ELOG, what did they say? You had many other people who actually summarized this election to mere numbers. All right? So you have everybody else seeing, and this is sometimes why I say we need to be true to ourselves, because everybody else is seeing things in the right direction, and you have somebody else who sees things differently. Now, we should not chastise the person who's seeing things differently. He has a right, just like all of us do. But we need to start questioning what is at play. Because let me tell you, Mark Bichachi, we cannot afford, let us not act as if we are a first world country. We are not. We cannot be spending 44 billion shillings every 4 years and every 5 years and then doing another repeat. And repeat election must not be part of our DNA. We need to get things right the first time. Like we did in 2013. We got it the first time. People were disgruntled, but at least they accepted. It cannot be a norm that we should every time after an election.
When you said there's interest, there's the 3 who are with the side of Chebukati, and then there's the 4 who are the dissenting views. But it's been shown out there that even their speech sounded similar to does that also show that some people are leaning towards?
Of course.
Let me deal with one thing Gabe has said first.
Then you deal with mine.
With this glowing tribute to IEBC, the 4 commissioners included. Have we forgotten that the IEBC bungled 2 gubernatorial elections? Kakamega and Bungoma.
There was a slight mishap because of logistics. It could have been 10.
No, guys.
Nick, I'm glad you're starting to say
guys.
And you're using your inner voice like Atwoli. What's happening? Speak with confidence.
No. Let me tell you something, so that we are on the same page. Number one, we must understand. We held elections in 2013. Nothing of the sort happened. We had elections in 2017. Nothing of the sort happened. So if there was a bar that has been set, then we know it is possible to have all gubernatorial elections in one day. IEBC bungled that. How many MP elections have been cancelled? How many MCAs over here in Embakasi where people did not vote for MCA? Come on. We cannot sit here and give IEBC a glowing review when you test it against itself. Forget about world standards. IEBC of 2017 and IEBC of 2022. IEBC of 2022 has failed the people of Kakamega. Failed the people of it has not.
No, it hasn't.
You see, this is the problem when people are biased. That you can't.
No, it hasn't.
Let me ask you.
Is there not going to be an election? There's going to be an election. See, Mark, what I don't want, Mark, what I do not want you to do, what I do not want you to do is come and tell Jeff that if you do not get 100% in school, you're a failure. No. Let me tell you, 90% is still an A, Jeff. 85% you've done pretty well. What I do not want this guy to get away with is that IEBC must run a perfect and error-free. It will never do, whether now, whether tomorrow, even if we are going to run 60 elections concurrently.
I should sit on national radio making excuses for people who didn't do their work.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
There's nothing perfect in the world.
Exactly. You must excuse the margin of error. That is why in everything.
It's not about perfection.
And there'll never be a perfect election.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
In America.
No.
About
Never
That's
was.
the point. Our job is to call out when they go wrong, right? Because we will never be perfect, but we aspire to perfection, don't we?
We do.
Yes, we don't aspire to 2 counties not voting. Is that the aspiration? Because in 2017, the same IEBC delivered 47 elections for 47 gubernatorial races, 290 constituency races, over 2,000 and something MCA races. They delivered them successfully. Why are they failing now? And my point is this.
And it was still nullified even after they delivered.
My point is this. My point is this: that we cannot sit here and pretend that the IEBC delivered a flawless election. The argument that nothing is perfect is an attempt to put rubbish under the carpet. What I am insisting and will insist till I die is that whenever things go wrong, this excusing of IEBC of doing shoddy jobs because then it benefits our narrative. No, this is not even about who is winning. It is about Kenya and how to make it better.
Absolutely. We'll have to leave it to the Supreme Court, gentlemen. You both made your arguments.
You should join the Azimio team, and I help them argue. You seem to have quite a bit of fact.
Well done, gentlemen. Mark Bichachi, Gabriel Duma, as always, this is no doubt what we call
Candid interviews with decision makers.